I'm losing time. Okay. I think everything's working. Hello. Um, I realized I forgot to set up my second screen. I thought I was all ready. Let's see. Oh, well, you know what? Let's see what we're doing here. See if I can. No, it's not going to happen today. Everything's buried. I'm just going to put my screen back. It's fine. There we go. There's too much going on today. I don't know. I don't know how everybody else is, but I'm not doing the greatest. So, I think they're just kind of wacky right now. So, I'm still going to do this because concentrating on these things are helping me get through everything else. It's hard to decide what to do, but yeah. So for right now, I guess we'll go at it. So if I don't see you come in, I am sorry, but I will try to catch people. Let me get my desktop here. Okay. So I was taking a look at where we left off last time, which is with the mini color goddess. And I think we're good here. It's time to move on. I just noticed there's some. Oh, that's twice. That's why. I need to separate these out. But I haven't quite got that far yet. But we're still on religion and what that's doing. So let's go back to articles here. World Encyclopedia, religions. And we're going to do some smaller ones first. It's the Everworm. So the Necropolis, which is basically a dead city. By dead city, I mean it was a place where people would bury their dead, and it was consumed within the forest walls. So most people don't even know it's there anymore. However, there is actually quite a large population of people in there. But the one big defining feature of the city is that this giant dragon just is hovering overhead, continuously moving in an Ouroboros. The charm witches, which I'll have to detail more later, they claimed to hear the voice, and so they held quite a lot of power in the necropolis. But it never moves. It never, never stops moving in one place. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't stop. It doesn't do anything but just hover there. Or at least as far as people can tell. The weather around the necropolis is very volatile. They never really know what it's going to be. It doesn't follow normal weather patterns, and it seems to be influenced by the dragon. Quibble's cuddling right now. Let's say hi, Quibble. Hi, baby. No, he's here. And same with night and day. They don't have regular night and day still. So life in the necropolis is always very strange. It's very haunted, very magical. Ghosts are a problem. The dead are a problem because there are a lot of dead. It's huge, a huge city in this place, and the people who live there have come up with some very unique ideas and the magic with them. But that's the Everworm. So that's a pretty simple one. I think I've actually already published that. I think I talked a little bit about it last time. It's religion, yeah. The Everworm. So So we're on to the walking gods. You want down, dude? Let's if you want down, it's fine. Let's put you in a direction where you won't hurt yourself. There you go. Okay. um so yeah, so let's see the walking gods. Let's talk about them. The walking gods are kind of the name for the collective giants and such that walk the Isle of Frost. So let me get some of them in here. So the Dust Eaters we've talked a little bit about. Actually, undo. I'm gonna make this H2. They are. What's the best way to put it? So these Dust Eaters, they have like this moth-like face that splits open in 4 directions, and this vortex contained within. This vortex will just suck everything in front of it in a cone. But they become this divine creature, or considered divine by the church, so that when one is born, they are given a handler who is trained to deal with these. Um, they don't talk. They don't seem to communicate. They don't seem to need to eat. They do grow and have a lifespan similar to humans. But they use them because there's so many magical monsters on the Isle of Frost to basically keep main city and these small, tiny hamlets safe from them. They're considered unpredictable. They're not. They don't discriminate against who they kill. So their handler can easily be killed as, say, a war beast, which is one of the monsters. Um, so people are really not happy with them. However, a lot of the monsters are worse. And at least they can use these to kind of fight them off. There are giants on the Isle of Frost. They devour things in their way. They tend to not trample towns or go into the large city of Elfenfrost. People used to be sacrificed to the giants, but it's the giants don't seem to notice the people at all or what's in front of them. So there have been attempts to try to kill giants, airships, and it's just as if the giant is swatting a fly and never even noticed. These things are huge. They leave destruction in their wake, but they tend to have patterns. I just realized I just got this into H2 and that'll look funky. So that's one of the biggest things about giants is that giants have patterns in which they travel. They are extremely slow moving, and some do not move at all for years at a time. They look kind of human. Their faces are very exaggerated. Their bodies are kind of bulbous and hunched. Let's see here. I need to hit enter. Giants look similar to humans, but with exaggerated facial and say stocky, hunched bodies. So that's kind of the giants. They're worshipped as gods or messengers of the gods by the church that controls the Isle of Frost. Oops, I did it again. There you go. So they're not, at this point where we're at, nobody's trying to kill them, nobody's trying to do anything to them. There's so much in the past that they've tried and nothing has worked. No one's been able to communicate with them. The church claims that they can decipher the patterns of giants to mean something. And so people tend to believe them, regardless of their contact with the outside. It's our worshipped. Worshipped. Messengers of the gods. Or as. It's more of as embodiment. Embodiment of the gods. Followers of the church of the. I'm not going to leave it at that for right now. The vortex that's in the Death Eaters actually shows up in other beasts as well, and there's a lot of study for the beasts. The problem being that the magical beasts in the area seem to appear and disappear. They act like normal animals for the short time they're there, as far as they have patterns, they seem to have young, but then they may suddenly be gone. Suddenly there'll be new beasts in their place. And it happens so often and so frequently that it's hard to keep track. And it, again, makes them very dangerous. You never know when you're going to go out into the woods and find a new beast. So travel is considered very dangerous as well. So most travel is by airship. That actually made the ability to have more villages further out into the Isle of Frost possible. So that's kind of where that is. Let's finish that one up. I haven't written a lot there. I've written 2 short stories in the Isle of Frost, but I have plans for one of the characters that I created at least. That puts us with the last main religion, which is the Shattered Goddess. And this is kind of the big one. So Na, the Shattered Goddess. Let's see what I have written here. There we go. Okay. So over 400 years ago, Na was shattered. Her soul gone missing, her word burned. Na's followers boarded boats, fleeing their persecutors. But with no miracles and no word, Na was quickly forgotten, and even in the far reaches of Himalaya, remembered as something a grandmother once told me about. And that's from a fake book I made up called A Time Before, a treatise on the motives of Felorn by Ryer Gorak. And that's... Ryer used to be a character that was part of the original book, but I ended up taking him out of it and moving his story and what happens to him um, in the past. So, and though he's mentioned a few, I think he's mentioned a few times in the book by some of the characters. Um, so, at the current time, Not is considered a fairy tale. You know, there's people who adhere. They're usually considered fanatics. Some history books say that it was just a woman that led a rebellion across the world, but she was stopped before she could remake history. Her soul was broken into 4 parts and banished. Her remaining followers founded Himalaya, but the worship of the goddess fell by the wayside. So that's kind of the story or the gist of what most Himalayan know. But yeah, about 25 years ago, and this is where I'm going to start bringing out the timeline stuff. So let's do that. I don't know that I have this in the timeline. So let's see what we got here. What if I don't want this? We might have to do this. It may not work out so well. That's okay. Let's get to closer to today. Geld. Oh. So Cheryl Israel dies. Here we go. So, a current date. Things begin to happen. Look at the spreadsheet again. So I stop at Lecrae. I thought I had everything in here. I guess I just had. Let's see here. Sarah say 5. Because it's 496 when everything starts, right? Let's look. I have a place. 81 Bruma 495. So yeah, just before 496. So let's create an event. Cayenne comes to. That's what sets everything off. And it is. Say it's an event. The yellow. It happens at 5. 495. 81 Bruma. Wait. Oh no. I did that wrong. Right here. Oh, I know what I did. Okay. So I have it here. 495. I already had it. Silly me. Forgot it. That's with it. I already have it here. Kind comes to Thorlorn. So this is where my book my first book starts. Is this event. So I need to figure out how to. Looks like I started it. Here it is. Kind comes with Thorlorn. Let's take a look at it. Info panel. Event, color, parent, Ruma. So what's Cayenne? So I do have that story arc there. Can I add that here? To be able to. Well, here we go. But either way, it's 25 years prior to that. So what's... I need my calculator. Because I don't know it off the top of my head. Sorry, we'll take a look here. Choose not... Okay. So... Calculator. 495 minus 25 is 470. So... Let's go to the spreadsheet. And we're going to say Shep. So we're going to call it Shep's Revelation of Na. And this is backstory. And it's going to be, we only want the year, so 470. And okay, so there we go. There we go. I'm going to have to play with this a little bit more and figure out, because I used to be able to. This is like the relationship. Because here I have the, it's related to Dreamfire, but that's hard to tell here. And I don't like that these are all out of order. Like this is 74 Bruma, 495, so why is this 449 not? So it should be right here. Oh, I guess I can drag and drop them. Geld takes the throne. So this would be during Geld's reign. 9. Burma. Anyway, we'll come back to that. But so this is like where my story starts, and I really like this subway view. There was a Storyline creator had this, and I really liked it. But you had to like pay for the full version, and I did for a while. But now that this has it, you can rebuild it. What I really like about like this subway thing is that it shows you like what things are and how things interconnect and where they show up. So that's kind of cool. In your timeline and everything else, so you can kind of see where people are. That was like one of the things I used to have, like check on who was in a scene when I was writing things, because it's hard for me to remember. Um, but yeah, it's kind of cool. I will play with this more. Hit save though. So let's go back to what we're talking about here. So this guy Shep, he thinks he's getting a dream message, and it's late at night. And he'd been sleeping. He didn't quite hear it. He doesn't have the ability to answer. He's not a dreamer in the sense that he can actually use the dream. So he went outside, which is what he thought the message said, and he met someone strange. He went up to her, and she disappeared. But then he suddenly had the idea that there was an old shrine next to the town hall, and he needed to clean it. He did so that night and got it ready for worship, and suddenly he was believing in the gods, like an overnight change. And that's kind of where the modern movement to go back to worship of Non, the Shattered Goddess, came to be. The As they kind of grew, most towns started having a shrine, but there was no forced belief. People weren't worried about converting. Um, there was no like rift. Some people talked frequently about fixing their goddess. They gave her the nickname the Heart of Himalaya. But what kind of happens in the first book is that suddenly the king becomes a worshiper and he starts changing laws to favor this religion. And, things happen slowly until they are bad. So this goddess, she has soul shards. Shards can change the reality of a person, making them extremely loyal. The goddess has the ability to see through her loyal followers. Um, but the shard is actually in a person, and it's not necessarily inherited, but it does travel to find a certain person. So these people have to meet a certain criteria, and that means that there's fewer of them. So if one person has a goddess shard in them and they die, the shard may have to travel a very long way, and it's not clearly understood. It's magic. Don't worry about it. But they must be a tier 2 dreamer, which when we get to magic, I'll link to that, with all the abilities. So that means they can't only have partial abilities, or they have to be some of the strongest dreamers out there. They have to have other powers, and the shard makes sure to find people who suffer from some sort of isolation. But that's kind of the key one, where they're looking. The shards are looking for people who don't have close ties in the way that Because they don't have to be physically isolated. They could be surrounded by people. They could know a lot of people, have a large family. They could have a small family, but there's a person feels isolated. I guess is the best way to put it. Since this just doesn't list the whole thing. There we go. The person does have free will. It doesn't take over their personality. If multiple shards get together, they feel the urge to merge, and that can take a great deal to resist. However, it can be done, especially if two souls are against the merge. The merged shards are more powerful and can compel. That's not how you spell compel, is it? That looks wrong. Compel. I guess that's right. The word just looks wrong today. It happens. But they become stronger, and so the will for like a third shard would be harder. So when I say merge, they become one person. And this is where, okay, let's see, this is where personalities are destroyed. They lose their will to the goddess. And that's kind of where we're at with this. Like, that's the danger. Is that everyone becomes loyal, everyone becomes part of this goddess till she's almost consuming people. So that is the Shattered Goddess. Alright. So let's make sure we can see that in here. Oh, I forgot to put the TOC in. So yeah, so that's kind of where the central themes of my story come from, is kind of with that fascination of religion. That's the religion section. And sorry, I was just looking, I need to fix that still. I need to break these up into separate articles. So, named ships. So this one, where do we want articles? So I just have a few named ships. I just want to keep track of them. We'll create a category. Let's call it ships. Air and sea. Say named ships. These are just, I'm trying to keep track of like the ships that I've used in here. Nothing too fancy. I have the Forest Pyre, originally a Ventara Archship of Ambassador Marissa. She's the Ventara ambassador to Himalaya. Dove's Call is a Residian Armada ship. Blue Runner is a personal airship of the Crown Prince Lord Ventaris. The Soleil is a Ventaran trading galley sent to assist Somalia, requisitioned by the Somalian government, captained by Albright. So those are just, it's just really simple, you can keep track of these named ships. So I did that named ships. Or did I already create it? Yeah, I did. Good thing I didn't hit that create button again. So this is a simple one. I think we're gonna get to the fun part now, to magic. What is a fantasy world without it? Sonar. Go. Adding thing that takes forever. Okay, save. Fun. So world. So I just need to do some cleanup in this area, and when we get back, I can clean up that one right now. Did I fix this? I did. Alright. Come on, let me edit it. There we go. Go. That's that at least. Okay. So what do I need to do? I think I fixed all these. So I just need to fix. I think nature's fine. Just want to clean up this and clean up the religion section and add that. Okay. So that would be the world section, and then we're on to magic. So let's talk about magic. How do we work this? Well, let's go put it in the right section, I guess. I'm gonna drink. I know I'm coughing. Hopefully my fan's not too loud. It is so hot outside. Alright, so World Encyclopedia, magic. An article. Do we have like a magic section? No? Spells. No, just leave it as generic. Magic. I'm gonna call it the dreaming instead of the gathering. Right? Is that a TLC? Alright, so magic. Let's talk about the dreaming. So I think I've read this before. This is a quote from one of the stories. Let me. I'll read it again. Oops. The dream is what is. The very life of things and the very life of things. And a dreamer is someone who feels it, hears it. We're all part of the greater dream. A dreamer is attuned to listen and communicate through the dream. The best of us can draw the very life of the world through it and make it burn. The dream is life, light, and fire. Something Kadrick said. I am losing my voice today. Excuse me. Okay. So let's put that in a paragraph. So dreaming is what the principal magic system. So at the very base, it's a communication system. And because they have this ability to communicate with one another through the dream, send their thoughts, kind of like a telepathy of sorts, except it's more than that. It's more like a feeling that they have where they're suddenly with a person or they're suddenly at a place. The dreaming, while they don't need training to use it, it's inherent. Um, Necessarily, sometimes dreamers are trained in certain ways to use the dream very specifically. So, like the surreal, we talked about them before. That they're trained to only use they're dreaming a certain way, never use it another way, even if they can. That they believe other ways are blasphemy to their religion. Not because they can't, it's because they won't. But so while technically everybody can feel, use, be affected by the dream, a person is considered a dreamer if they can at very least sense the dream, meaning that they know when they're being dreamed to. Obviously, if someone is being sent a message and they can tell they're being sent that message, they're considered a dreamer. There's very few people in the world who cannot do that. So that's most people. One of the main characters, Maud Britt, she grows up in a town full of very advanced dreamers in a place where they are basically facilitating getting dreamers jobs, basically. It's this very elaborate council. They study the dream. They promote it. They basically recruit people. In Himalaya, if you have the dream and enough powers and you want to be guaranteed a place, you're going to head to Forlorn. And that's just one of the things that's known in Himalaya. Because Majbert grows up there, she becomes part of this, though she's really only a dreamer in that she can sense it. She can tell when someone's dreaming to her. She can feel the dream. But other than that, she can't really manipulate it. She can't send her own dream messages. She does not have that ability. So she'd be considered the lowest level of dreamer. Kind of like in that mid tier are the people who can use it for fighting, and there's different systems. Many military and governments are always looking for dreamers of certain types. And military, Ventarus is always looking for dreamers to join their ranks. That can use the dream in a certain way to fight. Rosidia has a plenty of dreamers, and don't worry about it. Um, but they kind of organize the military. Even with Homalia, their military is very small. Um, and they, what's the best way to put it? Um, and while they don't have like the capacity, I guess is the best way to house a huge dreamer army. And they haven't needed to. Because of the forest wall and because of how far away they are, being on the other side of the planet from the bigger empires, it doesn't make a lot of sense to attack Homalia. Um, but they're a pretty big force, so most places are going to have some. In response, normal people who can't fight using the dream, they have blasters. There's guns in this world to help them with that. And then energy weapon based off of like the crystal technology I kind of talked about before. Um, see, I talked about the schools. Dream color is the color that a dream manifests. So if the dreamer can manifest a dream in some way, whether to create dream fire, to fight with that fire, to light up weapons, whatever way, create shields, it's going to have a distinctive color. Color is very arbitrary. It doesn't seem to be related to anything that people can tell. It's not emotional. It's not hereditary. It also becomes problematic because many dreamers, completely unrelated, will have the same dream color. So say a crime was committed and someone saw blue dream fire, they might try to find everybody with a blue dream fire, but that's even going to be difficult, especially if they're in a country where dreamers with that power are pretty numerous. The color doesn't change throughout their life. Um, so that's for normal. For nightmares, it's completely different. Let's see here. So if we talk about what are the main abilities of what a dreamer has. So the first thing is the dream messaging, where they can send messages. And since this is just so prevalent, even if a person can't send a message, there are dream parlors set up where people can go and have a message sent. And even those dreamers can even prove the person is sending it by their that person's essence can be stamped upon it, if that makes sense, so that you know who the dream message is coming from. There's other ways too. Oops, not a B anymore. B. I wanted a list item. I should have said a button for list item. It's fine. So the three principal abilities, which most dreamers have one or all three of these. One, two, or all three. The first is dream messaging, and I'm actually going to number this list. Again, it doesn't. Like, why? Like, I have them on separate lines. Anyway. The second is glows. So glows are, and I should actually define these, I realize. So glows are basically harmless dream fire, but they light up and they can last several days. So they create a glow, assuming it's a pleasing color that gives off enough light. So something like, say, a dark blue dream fire, like, wouldn't, their glows would be pretty much useless. It's for maybe toys. You could hold them, they don't burn, but they light up. So often lighting, where electricity can be used too, so it's not necessarily glows, but glows are used as lighting. Again, it's convenient. They don't. Most people can do it. They don't. It's not a hardship to find someone who can create a glow, and it's very common. And then the next one is Dreamfire, and then that is actual fire. It's directed. What it burns on is decided by the dreamer. It can some might need some kind of focus to bring it forward, meaning that there's some that can only bring it forward on certain materials, certain weapons. The Suriel, who are trained to only bring it forth on their weapon, what it does is the fire isn't hot enough to melt the weapon, but will burn the person that's obviously hit with the weapon. It's a whole pain thing. Anyway. Or use it like a blast of Dreamfire. It tends to be more powerful. I did define them down here. That's good. So, since I defined these, let's do this. So, and this is something that's kind of important with the dream messaging because it's so prevalent. So they haven't needed to come up with phones or walkie-talkies or when everybody can basically send a message to everyone else. It's it becomes kind of it has its own mythology brought up around it. So getting a letter, any type, when someone can just send a dream message, is considered an extreme insult. And that is especially true in Bentaurus. Getting a letter in Bentaurus is considered huge insult, especially since that country puts so much emphasis on dreamers that have those first three abilities that almost the few people that don't are really considered second class citizens. So if you really wanted to piss off a noble, you'd send them a letter. And let's see, this is especially true in Taurus. Getting messages of certain types or for certain reasons, like in Himalaya, messengers are actually an office that is held by a group of the Himalayan military, and these messengers are considered extremely dangerous. They're often considered to be assassins. And having one of them show up, and they have scrolls that they hand out. They're never sent out for good reasons. So, letters are considered huge insults. And messengers are a branch of military I'm gonna say rumored assassins. They deliver messages on scrolls, usually from king or queen. I'll say they are always considered harbingers of the Suriel. They actually consider dream messaging blasphemous. So they feel that the body is sacred. I kind of touched on that, and that sending a dream message to each other is considered an invasion of the mind and therefore the body. And any kind of mind-to-mind ability, they consider that. And that's part of their sect of the religion with the Grey Goddess. Yeah. And that's kind of where we're at with magic. And I'm going to stop there for tonight as we're kind of getting into the new stuff. There's definitely a lot more here with this system, and spelled assassins wrong. Assassin. That's totally wrong. Spell check. Got that word. Let's see. Always spell receive wrong. Equivalent. No, that's the wrong word. Receiving. Lessons. I can't spell receive to save my life, looks like. Save. Get out of spell check mode. Huh? I'll leave it for now. But yeah, so cool. We're getting into the magic section, and there's still a lot more to discuss. So I will talk to you all next week. Thank you so much for joining me if you had time. And next week we'll delve more into magic, and I think we're going to start getting into characters if we have time. Like in the glossary of terms. So that'll be fun. See where we get at that point. If you are watching this on YouTube, hi, please like and subscribe. Tell me what your kind of magic systems that you thought of below, or what do you think of this one so far. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you all next time.